Good morning, Aegis, and happy to see you all. Especially happy to see all the Aegis and welcome. Our attendance was 98% yesterday, which is really good. A special hello to all our distinguished leaders who've joined us this morning. A special welcome to our panelists who has agreed to take some time out of their restful weekend to also be with us today. This is day 2 of our orientation, and as we continue to inspire you to be the best version of yourself in your new role, and some of you continuing on as the AG. Today is a little longer session, and we trust that we'll keep you engaged throughout the day. We have started, and we're trusting that we should be able to conclude by 12 o'clock. As I mentioned, we will be hearing from 2 past AGs and 2 past, AGs who've been there, done that. So you will hear some real life experiences that they will share, and two AGs that are actually serving AGs as well. One in his first year and one in his 3rd year as an AG. This will follow a breakout session where we'll have some discussion on the planning guide, as some of you who would have served as president many years ago would have known that we had to complete as an incoming leader an annual planning guide, which is done in very great detail. We have tried to summarize some of it because quite a bit of that information is now on Club Central, but we think that it is still very relevant today, and I think it is a way to keep some structure in planning as well, and certainly assisting the president-elects and their board in planning their year ahead. And we will discuss that in our breakout sessions, which follows the panel discussion today. So to kick us off, have we seen, is DG in as yet? No? All right, let's continue. As usual, our DGE, Leslie, will kick us off this morning. But before, I know that Leslie is known to all of you, but I still think that I should mention some important facts about him as well in very brief fashion. He is, in fact, a businessman running a family business for more than 47 years. He served as directors on several boards in Grenada and is currently the director of the board of Grenada Cooperative Bank. His Rotary experience, he has been a Rotarian and was part and parcel of forming, as a charter member, the Rotary Club of Grenada East, which was established in 1977. He served in many roles, including treasurer, secretary, and assistant governors, and of course, assistant governor, and of course, as president. So, and one of the main things that you need to know about Leslie when you get to Grenada is that he likes fishing, he has a boat, so make sure that you get your ticket to go in that boat ride from Leslie. So, welcome DGE, and as usual, I'll ask you to just share some opening remarks as we commence day 2 of AG's orientation.
Thank you, Liz, and good morning. A spicy good morning to all my fellow Rotarians. So great to see you here. Welcome back to your 2nd session. Thank you, PDGs, for all the support. I'm so happy to see you guys here, backing me up all the time. And our AGs, I think we did very well on our opening day. PDG Charles Seeley got us off to a flying start and brought all of us to attention and gave us some very, very good pointers on how we go forward as AGs for the incoming year. So District Trainer Liz has already indicated the type of session we're going to have today is going to be a very interactive session. We are going to be benefiting from the experiences of past and current AGs, how it is, the systems that they've used to get their clubs up and running. So I really look forward to an excellent day today, this morning. But before I jump off, I would just like to remind Rotarians, and I'm sure you would have all heard about it, of our new theme. The theme for our incoming year is Imagine, crafted by our President-elect Jennifer Jones. And I just want to explain a little bit of that theme to you. So there's this circle, and that circle is the connection, our connection to one another. You see some dots, and the dots are the people. The 7 dots represent the areas of focus, the 7 areas of focus. The circle plus the dot is our navigational star. That'll be our guiding light. That's the solid line. That's that stick. Is a digging tool, and that's our tool for getting things done as we continue during the year. Okay? The colors, purple, green, and white. And those represent our focus on DEI. It also signifies how we can express ourselves differently. And taken individually, purple can represent polio, green, the environment, and white, peace. Also, and she's very proud of this because the colors represent the women's movement. She's very, very proud of that. And they also indicate a lot of warmth, empowerment, and newness. So that's the explanation of our theme colors and symbols. So I wouldn't go any further before Alana stops me. Welcome once again, and I wish all of us a very successful assistant governor seminar today. Thank you very much. And I see DG is back on now, so please, DG, please, all over to you, DG.
So let's get into it. Are we seeing DG again? It's not going to happen. So she's going to catch up with us at some point in time during the course of today or at another session as well. All right, so today we do have, like I mentioned at the beginning, we will kick off this session with a panel discussion. And the panel discussion will be, it will be co-hosted by Leah. Leah is the past president of the Rotary Club of St. Kitts. She's a Kittitian. She has been in Rotary for the last 11 years. She served in several positions, including, of course, like I mentioned, as president. She is currently the club trainer, as well as an incoming AG this year for the first time. So she's wearing 2 caps today because she's also a member of our district training team as well. She is, as a profession, she is a practicing lawyer, with a specialization in international law, I think. So please welcome Leah, who will be co-hosting the panel discussion with me this morning. So I'll start off by introducing the 2 panelists very briefly, because we've circulated the bios in order to save time on introduction. So a very brief introduction. So I'll first like to introduce Leighton, who is my good friend for many years, because we are in insurance together for many, many years. So it is my pleasure to introduce AG Leighton. AG Leighton is a sitting Leighton. This is his first year as an AG, so I'm sure he'll have some exciting stories to share with us. He's Jamaican by birth, but resides in St. Lucia, has been there for the last 28 years. He has been, I didn't know this until he sent me his bio, he's been associated with Rotary for 45 years because he was one of the charter members of the Interact Club in the high school in Jamaica. He joined Rotary 27 years ago and is currently the assistant governor of St. Lucia. And Leighton tells me crisis normally follows him because he served as president of the Rotary Club of St. Lucia in 2001 during the US terrorist attack, and again in 2020 in the height of the COVID pandemic. So it seemed like he's attracted to crisis, or crisis attracted. He's a qualified insurance expert and management expert and professional, and has experience in banking and insurance. He claims he's actively retired, but he's also overseeing a family business jointly owned by his wife, which is a medical clinic. His personal mantra is Rotary. In Rotary is that if you're called upon a Rotary to serve, if you're called upon in Rotary to serve, you should do so unless you have compelling reasons why you can't. So please welcome Leighton. The next panelist that I'll be introducing is P.A.G. Luana, who is my buddy from Guyana. She's been a Rotarian for 17 years and served and attached to the Rotary Club of Starbrook serving in multiple areas in her club, including secretary for many, many years, and president, of course. At the district level, she has served as an AG on 3 occasions. So she's bringing a wealth of experience to this discussion this morning. She also served as Interact Chair and is currently the district trainer as well. So much to be garnered from PAG Luana. She is the general manager and company secretary of the Frantic Group of Companies, and is also the CEO of Premier Business Services. She believes that service, her mantra, she believes that service through Rotary is the channel through which persons can fulfill their purpose on earth. A very warm welcome to PAG Luana and AG. Leighton, over to Leah.
I'll be introducing past AG Brian and past AG Joseph. So we'll start with past AG Brian, who is currently the Managing Director of CASL, located in Trinidad, Suriname, and Florida. He's qualified in chemical engineering, business management, as well as digital marketing, really a diverse individual. He has 28 years of experience in his industry. So he is an industry legend, apparently. He is currently the Assistant Governor for South Cluster of the Rotary Clubs in Trinidad. Of course, he's the past president of his club, Rotary Club of San Fernando South, and an active Rotarian since 1994. He also served in many humanitarian projects within the Caribbean region. So please welcome AG Brian. Past AG Joseph is currently our district membership chair and doing an excellent job, if I do say so myself, having worked with him in the past. He's a Suriname-born citizen of Lebanese descent who joined Rotary in 2000, and he's currently a member of the Rotary Club of Paramaribo in Suriname. He was the youngest member of his club at the time of joining, as I think many of us can align to, having been the same way. He is a Paul Harris Fellow by 5. He served in many positions in his club, including club treasurer, club president, and he served as assistant governor from 2017 to 2019. He's a devout married man, and he has 2 sons and 1 daughter, and they're all currently studying abroad, and he's very proud of them. When not in Rotary, he is actually an entrepreneur and leader of a group of companies in Suriname that also has a diverse portfolio in agriculture, food wholesale and distribution, backup power generation, automotive aftermarket industry, engineering, electronic security, and guard services. He speaks multiple languages: Dutch, Taki-Taki, English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. So if we do need a translator for today, he is our go-to person. He enjoys hunting, camping, boating, fishing, and flying. And he's also Honorary Consul of Jamaica to Suriname and is the president of the Aero Club of Suriname. Please welcome past AG Joseph.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Now, I did indicate upfront to our panelists that we do have 3 statements that we'd like them to address, and I will certainly kick it off, and then Leah follows me. I'll give her that cue. The presentations, really 4 minutes per question, but you can be a little less or a little bit more. I think we have some slack. We have some time in terms of some slack time as well. So we have included to the participants, this message to the participants, 15 minutes Q&A after the presentation, but keep placing your questions in the chat box. Please remember to put it in bold, and if we can perhaps not be too friendly and add comments during the course of the presentation, that'd be nice and easy for the persons who are monitoring the Q&A box as well. So the first question that I have, and I'd like to say that it's an important aspect of your role as an AG to help clubs assess their strengths and weaknesses and to provide guidance. So my first question is to Leighton. Could you share some of the pointers on how you did this or how you're doing this during your tenure as AG? So my first question is to Leighton.
So thank you very much, Liz, for this opportunity to participate and for placing me among such distinguished and accomplished colleagues. And I'm really looking forward to the discourse today. Now, as you know, I'm a first-time AG, and I did acknowledge on Thursday that I did get off to a late start for a number of reasons, mainly because I was just coming out of a very, very hectic presidency and having to survive one full year of virtual meetings. So I did get off to a late start, but not to worry. No one was harmed in the process. I was able to work through my youth services director to reach out primarily to the interactors and to some of the Rotaractors. And I used her as a conduit to disseminate information to them as was necessary. But I was able to have discussions with the presidents of the Rotary Club and the satellite clubs. So in addressing our question in terms of pointers, there are two initiatives that I've started out on. One, the first thing was to design a simple survey form. Very simple, only 10 basic questions that covered some of the key and critical areas that I'm aware some of the clubs would be dealing with. And that was sent out to all the presidents to complete. And I got a very good response. I got an 80% response rate to that survey. And what I was able to do is to create a master spreadsheet with all the responses I got from that survey, listed all the clubs and all the 10 questions on top, and populated that spreadsheet with the responses from the clubs. And with one glance, I was able to see and analyze what some of the issues were in these clubs and do a comparative analysis between the Rotary clubs, the satellite clubs, and the Rotaractors. And it was interesting to see the results. Some issues were common across the board. There were some areas where the Rotarians were doing well, whereas the interactors weren't, and vice versa. There were some areas where we found the interactors and the Rotaractors were outperforming Rotarians. So that template now creates a database for me to be able to zone in and focus on some of the specific problems that these clubs are having, so that when we meet over the next few weeks, we can focus on those particular areas where the challenges exist. And I found it to be a very useful tool to get a clear picture and a clear sense. Now, the survey was centered around issues like the strengths and weaknesses that currently exist in the clubs, the current state of the club and how it was functioning, how they were functioning, and the challenges clubs were having in terms of their meeting dates and times and attendance, if that was an issue. 2 or 3 other important areas the survey covered was membership engagement, to determine to what extent members were getting involved in the club, membership growth and development, whether new members were coming on or whether we're losing members, and also a question dealing with this current state of the projects and the work program. So that was the first initiative to give me a very broad sense of what the issues were. And then the second initiative now was to host what I call the Aegis President Stroke Leadership Fellowship Retreat. Now that's a mouthful, but this fellowship retreat was slated for early January this year. Unfortunately, because we had a very rapid outbreak of COVID in St. Lucia, that retreat had to be postponed, but it's actually going to be tomorrow at Conrad's hotel. And so the idea was to bring the entire leadership team of St. Lucia together in a social fellowship setting with the objective of first getting to know each other. There's some of the Rotaractors and interactors I have never met after all these years in St. Lucia. I don't happen to know them personally and was not able to interface directly with them over the last few months. So the idea was to bring the team together get to know each other, and then get each club president to do a quick update and a quick review on what had transpired in their clubs for the first half year. So that was the first part, to get everybody updated in what was happening in each other's club. We would then break and have a nice fellowship lunch. And then afterwards, we would get back and then discuss the strategies going forward for the next 6 months up to the end of the year. So this, I think, is going to be a very, very useful exercise. It will afford me the opportunity to get to know the people, get to hear presidents talk about what's happening in their clubs, get the clubs leaders to know each other, and to be able to increase the communications between the clubs and the leaders, and to encourage working together in terms of joint projects and initiatives in the second half of the year. And so I'm looking forward to that event tomorrow. I wish I had more time to talk more about it, because I feel very confident that this will be very useful. I'm also going to suggest to the incoming administrations that they factor this retreat into their budget and work program for the year, because I can see where we could benefit substantially from it. So for now, these are the two main initiatives I'm working on, and I'll update you more on that as we go along.
Thank you, A.G. Layton. I think that is excellent, because it actually speaks straight to the question, the statement that I just made before the actual question. So perhaps if you can share with us those 10 points, we can take it up right away, because I think it's very important to see and assess where you're at right now in order to properly plan as you go forward. So thanks a lot for that, those wise words and good guidance. All right, so next up is PAG Luana, District Trainer Luana. Could I pose the same question to you? Some pointers on how you did it. And I can tell you guys, Luana has been my favorite. I'm not saying that because she's here, but she has been in my time in Rotary. They might have had others, but I've always been very impressed with the passion she brought to the role of Assistant Governor in Guyana. So PAG, Luana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, my good friend and District Trainer-elect Liz. So my story is similar but slightly different to AG Layton. My first year as being an AG, I had no playbook, I had no training, because I was appointed on the 26th of June to take up office on the 1st of July. I had actually missed 2 installation ceremonies. So one night I got a call, and then immediately by midnight I was the AG, the incoming AG. So I had no background, I had no training. So basically I had to wing it. But what I decided to do was to take a step back, and I had a background of all the clubs only because, Liz, you would know that we only have, well, now 7, but at the time we had 6 clubs. Everybody knows everybody. And I have had a good relationship with Rotarians in all the clubs. So I had a sense of the state of the clubs, a basic sense of the states the clubs are in. So what I did, I sat down with the AG I was taking over from. I got a rundown of the strengths and weaknesses of all the clubs. And then I started to follow all their social media pages. And then one of the first things I did was I went to meet with their boards. The minute they got inducted, I went to meet with the boards, and basically just have to have a one-on-one on them to find out, you know, what direction they wanted to go in and how I could be of support. I was never going to be an AG who would say to clubs, if you need me, you know where to find me. That was never going to happen. And that's one thing I want to caution all the AGs on this call, that you have to be active. If the clubs are successful, if you're successful,
0.82 miles.
Oh, sorry, okay. Your clubs can only be successful if you give them the support that they need. So I was able to get a good sense of the strengths and weaknesses of all the clubs very early on. And then I used the planning guide. After every quarter, I used to call a meeting of all the presidents and all the secretaries. And let me say, one club had to drive 3 hours to get to my meetings, but they came. right? And so we would sit down for a half day, similar to what Later did. We would sit for a half day and we would discuss plans, we would discuss strategies, we would discuss support we needed from each other and from me. And I think it went well. That happened throughout the 3 years of my tenure as the AG, but I found the planning guide very useful, Liz, and I'm happy to hear that you're going to be implementing that again, because it gives us a visual of where clubs are every quarter, of progress made or lack of. And you can actually, you know, it's one thing to have a discussion, but when you see the progress being charted, it makes a difference. And it helps you also to know what support you need to give to the various clubs. Now, two of the common areas in Guyana that I found all clubs had challenges was fundraising, or lack of access to funding. And because of the environment that I work in, I'm very familiar with funding opportunities that are available from international organizations. So I'm always scouting, looking for opportunities. And I usually share that with the clubs, help them to write proposals if they need assistance in that regard. And the other thing was the attendance and membership. That was a recurrent challenge throughout the 3 years. I think it's still a challenge for clubs, but you always have to be able to think of innovative ways to help clubs along. And some clubs require you to hold their hands, and that is fine. You know, that is your role as the AG, to hold their hand and take them through whatever difficulties they are facing. And of course, don't forget that you are the DG eyes and ears on the ground. So any issue that you see arising in any area, just flag it early. And when you go to clubs, and this is something I was very particular about, when I go to clubs to help them with problems they're having, I always go with a solution in mind to suggest to them. I don't think it's the role of an AG to just go and listen. You have to help them to come up with solutions to solve their problems. Unless I could go on and on about this, but I don't know if my 4 minutes is up, so let me stop now.
Okay, thank you. I know, so you really brought to the fore the fact that, and if DG and Brian is on board here to ensure that you appoint your AGs very early in the year, because really the interaction should start as early as 1st of February for the incoming board, so that you would not be catching up with time in July, because in July everybody's hitting the ground running. So thank you, useful point. And I think that, yeah.
Liz, let me also make a point that is important for all the incoming AGs to have a sit down with the outgoing AGs, because it is a transition. It's not hitting a reset button. It is a transition, and we must have that handing over. That is very important. Problems don't stop on the 30th of June, and new problems come up on the 1st of July. There are areas that the incoming AG must take up and continue, you know, with that the previous AG had to deal with.
Right, thank you. Yeah, I think that's key. And I mean, because as an incoming AG myself, I plan to not just meet with the sitting AG. I plan to also include the AG before, which is Luana as well, because I think a lot of information could be garnered in that respect. So thank you, PAG Luana, for those thoughts. And I'm sure that I will be tapping into your resource that you have garnered and experienced over the last 6 years, 3 years as AG. So I have 6 years of AG coming behind me to help me through my role. So thanks a lot. So I'll continue on with the same question to Brian. And the question is, share some pointers on how you did this or doing this during your tenure as AG. You're an AG, and this is you will be in your 3rd year as AG. So I know that you have some fresh information that you can share with us. So the frame is yours, Brian.
Okay, so morning, everyone. Thanks for having me on. So I want to endorse what Luana and Lathan mentioned this morning. So it's really important that we focus on our clubs and give them that priority. Now, I'm a little different in the sense that I consider myself to be a servant. I am a servant to my clubs. I'm a servant to Rotary International and to our communities that we work in. So, you know, some people coming in as AGs, I want people to understand this is not a status thing. This is something about we are now in a position that we can help people even better because we have more control on groups. Now, I just want to endorse that strategic planning guide. That is so key. Now, many of us are business people, many of us are in business, and many of us are working. We have experience, we understand this, we do these things to ensure that our own businesses and our own careers are well organized. It's the same methodology. I want you to understand, go to the Rotary Learning Center. It is there. It is one of the best tools you will ever have. I cannot, I just want to make sure you understand. I want to emphasize that Rotary Learning Center is a tool that you will really get a lot of information that will help you deliver successfully. Now, when I say deliver successfully, remember, you are a servant. You are helping your clubs to be strategic. You are helping your clubs to grow and to be diverse and to be dynamic and meet Rotary's Internationals and the district schools. Now, everybody wants to read the strategic planning guide and think that they're an expert all of a sudden. No, you're not an expert. Just remember this. You learn every single day, and every club you go to, you are going to learn something new. You will always have a curveball. And let me tell you something, when a curveball comes to you, you need to understand and appreciate that you are going to have tremendous support, not only from the district, but from Rotary International to support you. Do not be afraid to attack a curveball. If you don't know, put up your hand. I do not know, but I have access and I can get that. But make sure you commit. Take a note. You have the tools. Everybody has a smartphone. Document it, put it inside there. Make sure you follow up because you have to. That is your responsibility as an AG to ensure that you follow up and make sure you carry through. Now, so I'm talking about the strategic planning guide, and we can read it and we all think we get very excited because it's something we enjoy, we love to do. But maybe you're not an expert, and that's fine. Just say, you know what, let's get a consultant. Look for one who's willing to dedicate their time. There are a lot of really fantastic consultants out there who are willing to come in. You may have consultants who may be governance. You may have consultants who may be financial. You may have consultants who are business oriented, strategic planning. Get them on board. There is no master of one. They are master of different subsegments. Please get a consultant, help those clubs, but you have to understand the context, understand the clubs, understand exactly where the weaknesses are and get those resources to help them. Because you cannot come with one solution for every club. Every club is individually different and you need to understand that. And that's through your assessment, knowing your clubs, you need to understand that. Do your environmental scan, your SWOT analysis, work with them, work in planning sessions. I hold monthly meetings. That's my responsibility. And you are going to get most of them attended. Not everyone will attend, but hey, don't worry about it. Don't take anything personally. Make sure you understand that you are going to get some on board and some of them you have to give a special attention. Be firm, because there are some who would basically don't want to support, don't want to do things. Be firm, but don't be disrespectful. Be very firm. I know my time is up, so I will just end here by saying a few things. Congratulate people, share ideas. Always big them up. Big up your clubs. When they do well, big them up. Social media, call them out in front of everyone. Always congratulate them, motivate them. That's the key tip. When they don't do good and there's a little area that needs support, go to them individually and help them. Never bring out their weaknesses in public. That's basically, in a nutshell, what I would like to share today.
Thank you, AG Brian, for those thoughts. I think all of what you've said is captured in the servant leadership kind of approach that you've had. So thank you so much for your pointers. So moving right along, if I can call on Joseph, PAG Joseph, to share his thoughts on how he dealt with some pointers during his tenure as AG. And I know I've heard a lot about Joseph in terms of his passion for doing things and getting things done. So Joseph, share some of your pointers on how you dealt with the strengths and weaknesses of clubs.
Hey, thank you. So I'm sure it was good things you heard and not the bad things you heard. And good day, everybody. I mean, if you are here, that means you have been a assistant governor or you are an assistant governor, or you will become an assistant governor. And I must say, I've dealt with assistant governors over the whole, over our District 7030, and you quickly realize that just not all AGs are alike. And that's normal, that's human. So not everybody is alike. So there's no one thing that we can tell you, this is how you got to do it, and this is how you need to go about it. You heard 3 AGs or past AGs before me, AGs past AGs before me, and they all have their system and their way that works for them. You can pick and choose out of it what is good for you, but no AG is alike. So find your rhythm and find what works for you, and make sure that you achieve in it. So make sure that you and the boards of the teams and the boards of the clubs that are under you fall within your group. Become a team. You've got to communicate. You got to constantly communicate with them. You got to be in touch with them, because everybody has a busy life, and we all dealing with Rotary. But we need to be, if we commit to the task, we just need to put in the time. You need to organize your life, you need to organize your work, you need to organize how you deal with Rotary, how you deal with your tasks. Once you do that, it becomes a little bit easier. If you don't do that, things will come in front of you when you least expect it, and that is just bad for your timing. So as an AG, you know, it is very necessary for you to be well informed, but it is absolutely not necessary for you to know everything. Especially Brian said that before, you can't know everything, but there is a wealth of resource and a wealth of knowledge on Rotary.org and the Learning Center. So make sure that that is your go-to place for the most updated information, for the most updated answers that you will give to clubs, you know, posing questions to you. You can't know everything, but you have to know where to find all the answers, and almost all the answers are found on Rotary.org. There is a wealth of information on documents pertaining to any subject that you want, and you have webinars on the training center. So make sure that you are involved. Make sure that your team actually does at least the basics on Learning Center, because you want them to know and you want them to be involved, and that saves you a lot of time dealing with the boards, because we've seen a lot of boards that are, you know, just come on board and actually are in the driving seats and basically don't know what path to take. Before they get to that point, you know, half of the year has passed. When you talk to them about this and that, they actually don't know what you're talking about. So make sure that everybody is on a basic knowledge level. You know, push them to actually get these things done. Everybody needs to find their way, how to push their clubs, how to get these clubs engaged, how to get the boards engaged, and just have regular sessions with those boards individually. So make sure you set up WhatsApp groups and with all the boards under your reach. This way, they know what you're doing, you know what they're doing, they know what they are doing. So you don't have any conflicts between the clubs in your group. So I also would really advise that you go through all the RI and district goals with them. Make sure that all of them have completed RI and district goals on Rotary Club Central. If you don't do that, you'll have a hard time knowing what they are doing, because let's face it, a lot of clubs are very active, and you need to be involved with as AG to know what's going on with them. And if they are not reporting that their actions, if they're not reporting their projects, then how will the district governor know? How will RI know? How will the other clubs know what they are doing? So make sure that they are reporting there, and make sure that you are reading it, complimenting that, giving them, how should I say, giving them feedback on it, and make sure that you are also entering your notes to the district governor on Rotary Club Central about the clubs, about their projects, about those good cases that they are bringing forward. So you want, there is a template for, so coming back to the question, how did you do, or did you do the strength and weaknesses analysis with your club? So RI has a perfect template on how to go through the strength and weaknesses of a club with on the site. Find it. It's in French. It's in English. You got to find it. You got to make sure that there is one good standard that you are talking to all clubs on how to do this. Sit with the boards, talk to them, and make sure that they do this SWOT in an assembly. Make sure that the club is engaged in the strength and weakness of reporting, or actually finding out the strengths and weaknesses of the club. Don't be an AG that actually fills it in, or don't have your president just actually fill in your strength and weakness and says, well, you know, these are our strengths, these are our weaknesses. This has to, even if you know it, even if you are correct, you want to make sure the rest of your club is engaged and agrees with you that those are the strengths and weaknesses of your club. If you don't do that, you're gonna kind of push them away from you. You want to make sure, if your club or your members are not aware of what the strengths and weaknesses are of the club, they will not be able to work towards changing that environment. You want to make sure that you have a good environment. You want to make sure that you have a nice environment in which you have your club. You want to make sure that everybody's engaged. That makes your job just so much easier as an AG, as a board, as a club. And of course, I would not be a membership chair if I didn't close with some notes on membership. There are a lot of clubs in our district that are less than 15 members. I've been fighting for 2 years to get them to grow more, and you get a range of answers why they cannot grow beyond 15. Guess what? If you don't grow as a club, you're going to fail as a club. It's been proven time and time again. It's not, these are not my words. I have to sit into zone meetings. I had to sit into regional meetings, and you notice that all over the world. It's not only in our district, and our district is not unique. So when your district membership chair asks you, work with the clubs, work with your with the teams that are less than 15 members, you really have to work with them, because those clubs are going to be the ones that fail in your group. When you charter a club, you have to have at least 20 to 22 members. So why would it be good for a club to be 15 or less than 15 members? If you do that, that club stays in that level of membership. It can only go down, because you'll be the president once in every 3 years at least. You'll be the secretary once in every 3 years. You'll be the treasurer once in every 3 years. You know, it doesn't bring in new ideas. You won't bring in new people. Mostly the larger clubs, 50 and above, are the ones that have the least of problems, because they have the most members. They have a pool of members that actually can get trained, that get involved, that know other members to join in. So make sure that you push your clubs that are below 15 members to increase past 20. Thank you, Liz. That's my two cents.
Thank you, Joseph. I know that you know, one of the things that you mentioned, I think it's key, that I want to repeat, is the Rotary Learning Center. I think it's underutilized by a lot of members. So thank you for those thoughts that you've just shared. All right, so I'll hand over now to Leah, who will take us through statement 2. And please, we do have a time constraint because we've set this panel discussion for 60 minutes, and we want to try to keep it within that because we want you guys to leave as the promised time at 12 o'clock, I think it is, that we leave. So Leah, the frame is yours.
Thanks, Liz. The problem is we just, everyone we have on the panel, they're so widely, they have so much to share. 60 minutes may be a little too short for them, but we're going to ask you to be as concise as possible. And we also have other opportunities for you to share knowledge. So this statement is, Rotary International has been encouraging flexibility in clubs as a means of keeping members engaged. The Council on Legislation implemented many changes over the years, such as 1, the option to change their meeting schedule as long as they're meeting at least twice a month. 2, vary their meeting format, whether it's online, in person, or a combination of the 2. 3, relax attendance requirements, that's at meetings. And 4, offer different membership types. So the question to our panelists is, what are your views on these changes? And have you been successful in getting clubs to embrace change? Share one success story. We will start with Brian. Can you share a success story from your club in getting them to embrace change?
Okay, so let me just say very quickly a few things about this, and I have a personal experience that I will share. And so let's put on my timer. Okay, give the clubs the opportunity to brainstorm and share ideas. Go to other clubs and understand what they're doing, not only within the cluster, but also within the district. I travel very often as well, and I visit other clubs and I take back ideas as well too. But make sure they update the information on Rotary, because I use Club Locator when I'm looking for a club to attend when I'm traveling. And when I go to a meeting and there's no meeting because, you know, they don't meet on that certain day, I'm disappointed. So please update your information. That is a very important tool, and it also reflects on your branding of your club. So they, you know, encourage them to review exactly what works for them. Because there are members who want to meet in person, there are members who want to meet via Zoom, there are members who don't want to meet, you know, 4 times a month or every week. You have to know what's best. Their clubs need to know what's best for their club. Let them work it out. They will be able to address this on their own. So I have a quick story here I just share with you. There must be flexibility with respect to makeups, okay? And I want to make people understand this. We need to make sure that when members go to do a makeup and they come back and they advise that they have they did a makeup, let's not penalize them if they don't have a makeup card. Let's not penalize them because they don't meet the criteria. Work out a list of criteria that you will accept. I arranged our club, the club that I'm in many years ago, to visit a Florida club. We went to Florida, we had a good time. Now, typically when I attend a meeting, when I'm traveling, I will come back and I will either show a picture on our group chat that I attended if I don't get a makeup card, or if the president or secretary does not send an email stating that I attended. My president at the time had an issue with that. And so we went to this Florida club as we visited as a club, and we all got makeup cards. So my president told me at that point in time, listen, this is what a makeup card is, and this is what you need to present when you attend meetings. And I said to him, not all clubs give you this. The fact is every club is individually different. He says, if you don't present this, we will not accept anything else. And if you wish to leave, you must leave the club. And that's wrong, because we are going to lose members. For 2 years, I was in limbo whether or not I was going to leave Rotary, change a club, and things like that. But this still happens in clubs. We have this hierarchy of thought processing that we must have these things, and we have to go away with all these old things. We must come in with a list of criteria that meets our membership and make sure that we can achieve our goals together. Things are changing. Rotary actors are going to come into our club. Eventually, we have to be open-minded to them as well too, and make sure we understand this. So I just wanted to bring that little story for you to understand. But in our cluster, we do have some clubs that are meeting online only, some clubs are hybrid, and some clubs are in-person only. And it depends on the club and the members of the club, and they must make that decision. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Brian. We move to Lathan, same question.
Yeah, thank you. I could really echo a lot of what Brian has just said. But in terms of success stories, I think the biggest success in terms of being flexible is how well the clubs and members have adjusted to the virtual online meetings. Well, I should say most of them have. Some have not. Some members tell you outright that we're just not interested in attending a virtual meeting and will not come. But the moment you have a face-to-face activity, such as like a feeding of the poor in the park in Castries, they will show and participate fully, but can't get them to come to a virtual meeting for whatever reason. So that is one successful thing on one level. But the area I really wanted to talk about was, I don't want to jump the gun, but it's about the changing the attendance requirements at meetings. You know, we have to adjust to survive, but that is one issue I really have a difficulty with, that suggestion. I'm not in love with that one at all, and wish that wasn't placed on the table as an option, because that I think is harmful to Rotary, because it's already difficult to get members to come. And when tell them, listen, you really don't have to come that often, they jump at it and would rather go play golf. And I think this type of flexibility is affecting fellowship within the club. And fellowship is the foundation on which Rotary is built, and we should do nothing to undermine fellowship. And when people are going to stay away from meetings because Rotary now says it is okay, then we have a problem. Some people are stay away because of the cost of meetings. When we used to meet virtually, we meet, well, I'm speaking of my club, we meet at a very nice hotel at one of the Sandals resorts. You pay at least $65, $70 EC for each meeting. And so if members feel now they don't have to come, then they're gonna stay back because they want to save on the expense. So I don't like that idea, and I don't encourage that in my club or to any club for that matter. Let's try and continue to meet and get members to come out as much as possible, because staying away is harmful to building interpersonal relationship between members. It's harmful to fellowship. So I don't subscribe to that one.
Thanks so much, A.G. Lathan, for your thoughts. Same question, past A.G. Luana. Could you share a success story on how you've gotten any of your clubs to embrace change?
Thank you, Leah. Well, I think RI had a premonition about COVID when they relaxed the attendance rules. Let me just say that. And I think that's going forward, the hybrid system of, I don't like to use the word attendance. I prefer to use participation because I think participation is more all-encompassing. It's attendance at meetings, participation in projects, and everything else that involves a Rotarian giving of their time in Rotary. So I like the hybrid approach going forward, but clubs must be cautious not to utilize the online system of engagement only because, like Lathan said, there are Rotarians that love the face-to-face engagement. I wanted to touch quickly on the issue of the makeup cards. Now, we're an organization that engages truth and goodwill. And I will never enforce this makeup card scenario that if you don't bring a makeup card, you can't get your makeup. Because if every week we recite the 4-way test, and a Rotarian comes to tell us that I've attended a meeting for a club, or I attended a project, or I supported a fundraiser, we have to believe them. I don't think a Rotarian is going to come and say they did something when they didn't do something. So not giving someone a makeup because they didn't present a physical card signed by the secretary of the club, I don't subscribe to that. And I would never have encouraged clubs under my watch to go in that direction. Now, when I was president, gosh, it was what, 2012, Liz? Can't even remember. It was so long ago. When I was president, I wanted to address this issue of attendance in a holistic way, because many clubs have gone through all the options they think are available to them and nothing seems to be working. So one day I sat down and I said, how can we use participation rather than attendance and use that to give makeups to members? And for instance, so I'll use my club as an example, where every year our major fundraiser was a jazz, wine and words show, where it involved us bringing in at least 2 international artists. It was a really big show and it took a lot of planning to get the show off the ground. Now, I sat with the board and I said, why is it we're only going to give a makeup when somebody comes to the show? Why is it, given the hours and hours and weeks of planning that has to take place, why can't we come up with a scale of, because we know who was doing what and we know they had to get certain things done so that the show can happen. So we decided to come up with a scaling system of hours of input into this activity. And we translated that hours into makeups, right? So we had quite a few Rotarians who could not come to a meeting on a Wednesday at 6 o'clock because of work, because they couldn't get home in time for whatever reason. But they will sit down in their office and they will make the calls and they will call the airlines and they will get the tickets, they get sponsored and they will get other sponsorships for the show and they will go down to the venue and they will make sure everything. They did so much. Why couldn't they be rewarded with a makeup for the amount of time that they put into that activity? And so I implemented that system in our club. So if you contributed or participated in any club activity outside of a meeting attendance, and we knew and could verify the hours of input, we gave makeups accordingly for that. And we saw our attendance increase, because Rotary is not about coming to a meeting once a week. It is so much more than that. That's the least of it in my view. Rotary is about the work we do, about the hours we put in, and projects and so does not just happen. The planning that Rotarians do and the effort and the time and their resources that they put in, it must count for something. So that is one thing that I implemented in my club. I would have shared it with the other clubs and, you know, allow them to copy the blueprint of how that was successful in my club. Now, one other thing that, that we do now, our older members, and we have one in particular who is technologically challenged. So what we do is that a Rotarian who works close to his office, because he's usually at work at the time that our meetings take place, that younger Rotarian who is tech savvy will go to his office and join the meeting with him. So because of this hybrid system and most of the meetings are taking place online, older Rotarians are challenged, but we do not allow the challenges to get the better of us. We as Rotarians always have to work around how we can keep all our members engaged, using whatever means available. And for my club, that works for us. So we go to his office and we log in and he's able to join the meeting and have fun. It's just an hour, no big deal. We'll get home an hour later, but that's fine, you know? So we make it happen, and you have to support each other. Everybody is not on the same level in terms of access and knowledge, and we have to cater for that. I think my 4 minutes is up. Leah?
Thanks so much, Past AG Luana. That's an excellent point on flexibility. I see, this isn't my job, but I see AG Lathan under attack in the chat, and I feel I feel compelled to come to his rescue. I do believe, yes, that the attendance Rotary isn't just about attendance, but on behalf of all club administration directors everywhere, when you put your heart and soul into planning your club meetings and persons don't show up, it's painful. So in that regard, I can support AG Lathan. We invite past AG Joseph now to share his success story from his club and getting them to embrace change and flexibility.
Okay, so not sure if I am ready to share a success story, but if I read the question right, you're asking what are your views on these changes, and have you been successful in getting clubs to embrace change? So I want to answer that question because I think we've had a lot of success stories given by the prior speakers. So again, I am saying that there are a lot of good templates on Rotary.org in managing club change. I have, if you look at this link that I have shared on the chat, once you go to that link, you will see a wealth of information that you can find on how to engage, how to commit to change, how to get members engaged, because basically all these measures were started for membership and to make sure that you engage your members more. No, the question, what are my views on these changes? Okay.
And have you been successful in getting your clubs to embrace change?
Right. Okay. So if I look at the statement, like the speakers before me, not all of them will always work, and you don't always like some of the changes. But that does not mean that the clubs need to implement these changes. Rotary allows these changes to be made, but the clubs need to actually implement these through their bylaws and have it and have these implemented through an assembly as a club. If the club does not want to implement these changes and the club is doing quite well, then you should not try to change that club. If the way they were doing things is actually working well, keep it that way. The reason for the variety in club meetings are that you could open new clubs, that you can start new clubs, that you can start satellite clubs, that you can start other clubs within your club or out of your club to engage other people that would otherwise not engage in your situation or your club. If you have a strict attendance of 60% or 80%, and somebody will say, hey, I cannot commit to every week being there at that time, it's just not me, then you would lose that person. But it doesn't mean that would not be a good member. So look at these things in order for, when you see that you are getting more of these people, advise your clubs, maybe look into a satellite club, maybe look into a new club within within your group of clubs or within your geographical area to actually engage these people or that would like to meet in a different situation. So clubs, especially in the district, I've also just read somebody in the chat say that are reluctant to change. And yes, you are right. People can be reluctant to change. People are reluctant to change. And to be honest with you, it does not only happen in the district, it happens all over the world. But that does not mean that you cannot change. But change only happens with proper change management, proper change ambassadors that actually inform, promote, and manage the change that you are willing to implement in the club, be it with elderly members that you say that are reluctant to change, be it with young members that would like to see things a lot faster, and things are not happening the way it were. I mean, and sometimes external factors change the way we do things. Let's face it, before COVID, we would not see this widespread digital meetings. I mean, this change was put upon us by an external factor. But what did we do as a group? We embraced the change. We embraced the change, and we moved on to stay committed to our cause. And that's the whole thing here. You want to stay committed to your cause. You want to get to Rome. Doesn't matter how you get there. You can swim, you can go by boat, you can fly, you can do whatever, as long as you get to Rome, right? You want to get there, you want to be there. You decide how you get the job done. So these are just mere tools to use for you to actually have the clubs commit to these changes, right? And when you use flexibility in your club, it could be a two-sided sword, just like we heard also already. If the people are required to come to the club for their 60% attendance, and they have a hard time being there for the 60% attendance, and you're relaxed at attendance, yeah, you might end up with people coming in at 20% attendance. So what is it that you would like? So there is not a one single answer. All this will have to be done with actual engagement of the board to the club. I don't think that we as Aegis can do this, but we can work with the boards and teach them how they can go about informing their clubs or getting this information back and getting this information and what they do and how they do to actually use this information to the club's well-being. And lastly, if a club is really vibrant, why would you change it? That is my view. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Okay, if it's broken, if there's an issue, if you're having issues, then you will actually need to work to get it done and to get it in a better, how should I say, in a better, more vibrant engagement. That's it. I really don't actually have success. I have a wealth of success stories. I wouldn't know which one to choose. So, all right.
Thanks so much, Past AG Joseph. That's it for question 2. Liz, you're on for question 3.
I wanted to make a quick response.
Oh, yes, yes, Lathan. I tried to defend you. I'll send you my bill in the mail.
I didn't realize there were some comments in the chat. So after you mentioned it, I went to take a look. Let me say this, just to clarify. I agree wholeheartedly that nothing beats engagement. That is what really matters. But attending meetings is also part of the engagement. And it is important that members attend meetings. I'm not saying if you don't come to meetings, but you show up for a project, that you're a bad Rotarian. Not at all. But here's the point. When you don't come to meetings, we miss out on your personal input, your ideas, your views, which is important to help the club to grow and to develop. So you're not there at the table for us to benefit from your expertise and what you know. Also, I guess at most Rotary clubs, you have fines and raffles where you raise money for the administration of the club. And so you're not there at all. So we're making nothing from you to help with the administration of the club. And it's not like you send a check in to cover those expenses. I mean, we have bylaws and regulations that speak to attendance and how you deal with that if you don't show up for meetings without any excuses, without any makeup. So I think it's important we find a balance between coming to meetings and getting engaged in projects. I mean, frankly, you don't have to be a Rotarian to show up for a project and to assist. When we do our face-to-face projects, we invite a lot of non-Rotarians who come and participate. All right, so if that's all you're going to do, then you don't really have to be a member for that. You affect our membership records or attendance records, and it's just not satisfactory in my mind. So be a complete Rotarian, find a balance, come to meetings and show up for projects.
Thanks so much, AG. Lathan. Liz, over to you.
Right, thank you. MC, we're having some really interesting discussion. So what I'll do, because in the interest of time, because we really want to get those questions and comments out of the chat box and discussed at this forum, I'll just address this last question to the two past assistant governors. And it is really something that I think has troubled a lot of clubs, where Rotary International is constantly moving towards ensuring that we get a transition from Rotaract to Rotary. And it has just not been happening, even though the dual membership is also something that allows that option to be implemented in a gradual process. We're still not seeing this great movement into Rotary. So I just really wanted to ask the two PAGs, and I'll start with Luana. It's like, what is one point you think that, I know that we wouldn't go into the reasons why, because I think there's myriad amount of reasons, but one thing that we can do to change or break that cycle? PAG Luana.
Thank you, Liz. Now, the first thing I want to say is that I think AGs forget that they're the AG for all the branches of Rotary and not just Rotary clubs. They're AGs for interactors, Rotaractors, and inner wheelers. So you have to make sure the same effort you put in engaging Rotary clubs, you have to do the same with other families of Rotary. That's very important for you to do. Secondly, the answer to the question, Liz, is very easy. Clubs do not engage and maintain a very strong relationship with their Rotaract and Interact clubs to ensure that when the time comes for them to transition, it's an automatic transition. Outside of that strong relationship, A, we will lose them, or B, they might go to even other clubs, and we ourselves, our clubs will not grow. I've always said that the easiest way to grow our membership is through transitioning from Interact to Rotaract to Rotary. I can't underscore this enough. And clubs have to maintain that relationship. Invite the Rotaractors and the Interactors to your meetings. You go to their projects, ensure you're in their chat groups. You're there to provide all the support that they need so that they build over the years a very comfortable relationship with you. So when they actually transition into Rotary, they're already part of the family. They're comfortable. There's no teething process to take place at that point. Maintain your relationship, keep it strong, keep it engaging.
Thank you.
Liz, that was 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, PAG Luana. Yeah, I think that's key, because we're hearing all kinds of different stories these days where persons don't even know who's the president of their in a wheeler.
In a wheel club, yes.
They don't even know who's the president of the
And let me just add, Liz, that when the district governor visits the territories, make sure that meetings are set up for the district governors to also meet inner wheelers, interactors, and Rotaractors. For an inner wheeler to speak to a district governor or take a picture with the district governor or the interactor, sorry, it's a big thing. They aspire. Look, I just got another Paul Harris Award this last week. Peter Kyle pinned me. I put it on my social media page. Do you know I got a request from 2 requests for persons interested in becoming Rotarians? And I asked them, but why? They said, because I want to be awarded too. I want to stand up and be pinned by somebody from Rotary International. So, and this is the thing. You put your accomplishments out there. It is, once it's a good thing for you, it's a good thing for Rotary.
Right. Thank you for those thoughts. PAG Brian, could we have one point from you in relation to how or why this is not happening, in as much as it is expected to happen with all the changes?
Okay, so I'll share one story, and AG Jalam is here on the call as well too, and he can endorse what I'm saying. We have District Governor and RID Peter Kyle with us right now. Last night we had a social event, and I engaged all the presidents and ADRRs in all clusters to attend this social event. I got a lot of hesitance. They did not want to attend. I had every excuse in the book come out at me on WhatsApp, on email. I mean, I had messages since last week coming in, but I have car problems, and I said, listen, I will arrange a taxi. Don't worry, I'll get a Rotarian to bring you. I did everything possible. Up to yesterday evening, I had excuses coming, okay, my car just broke down. But I was so surprised. They all attended. And what I did is that I engaged DG Sonia and RD Peter to make sure in their greetings we highlight the Rotaractors. But I would say this. I was asked in the program to say a few words, but I turned that over to just focus on the Rotaractors. And I introduced everyone in greetings and I said, but last but not least, Rotaractors. And I called them out and I asked them to come to the front of the entire social gathering. And then I made everybody clap for them, big up their projects. And I then addressed all the Rotary clubs and I asked them to ensure that we create the transition or opening for all Rotaractors to come into Rotary. And I said, because they are the future DGs, they are the future Rotary International Directors, they are the future of Rotary, and we need to make sure we open that transition door for them. And what I also did is that I arranged a sponsorship of $1,500 for each club for environmental projects focused on mangroves or tree planting, aligned to Rotary International President Mangroves Focus. And that was all taken care of, so they will be receiving that. They felt so engaged, so happy. I have never seen so many younger Rotarians mixed with the Rotaractors mixed with the Rotarians to be so engaged. So my point here is take the opportunity to engage them, make them feel good. They look at Rotary as kind of like the far distant opportunities for them, but they wouldn't get there now. Big them up, bring them on, make sure you engage them and big them up. They are different, but they are our future. And they are going to lead us, because when we get older, they are going to be in leadership roles that we will be participating in. So I just wanted to share that story and let you know every opportunity you get for your Rotaractors, interactors, even early actors, bring them in. Tomorrow we have a peace project in the south area of Trinidad, and it's going to be peace poles with interactors, early actors, and Rotarians. It is going to be a very big deal, and they're coming out, and they're so engaged. It's amazing. So just wanted to share that story.
Thank you so much, Brian. I think that's a wonderful scenario that you just placed there, because I think that's one of the reasons why you have the hesitancy in moving on, because they see themselves as not being part or can't be part of. I mean, I've heard expressions like, oh no, I'm not going to join that club because they're an elitist club. Oh, I'm not going to join that club because their meetings are never on schedule. So you hear all kinds of things. So we have to commit to giving them that kind of recognition. And as PhD Luana said, including them in every area that we are actually, you have fellowship, you have projects, because I've seen it on many occasions where the Rotaractors are called the day before a project. Hello, they're not laborers. They are not laborers. So we have to engage them from the beginning. You're doing a project and you want to involve them from the start. We are having a discussion on this project. We will need you to help in this project. So come in from the start. And the great and phenomenal comments and ideas you can get from them. I think it's people don't recognize how much they can actually get from Rotaractors, a lot.
Just want to add very quickly. They had many young servants there serving food and drinks and things like that. And they came to me after and asked how could they join. That to me was the best moment of the night. I just thought that was something that I had.
That's
my contact information, and they already WhatsApped me.
Great job. So AGs, incoming AGs, sitting AGs, you've heard from 4 persons, and this is 4 persons that you can actually call up. We will send you, and we can share if they permit us to share their contact information, so that we can, if you can actually share it in the chat, will be great, because this is the kind of resource that we need to tap into. We're sitting on a set of resources that we are really not tapping into. So thank you so much for those thoughts that you've shared with us this morning. So before I ask DEG Leslie to say thanks to the panelists, I certainly would like us to go into the Q&A and get some questions put to the table, and hopefully get some responses responses from our panelists and anybody else who's in our group this morning, our past district governors especially.
Hi, Liz. Can I add my 3 cents into into the discussion?
Okay, all right. You have 1 minute to do so.
Okay, so I find that there's an obvious statement what might be some of the reasons that we can break this cycle. I find that within District 7030, it's very hard to say this, but I mean, it's realistic. It's my vision. Maybe it might not be shared, but I find that there's somewhat of a mismatch between the profiles of Rotaract and what the Rotarians are looking for as new members. When you look into what the qualifications are for the Rotary clubs of getting new members, and you see of what the qualifications are for our Rotaractors for getting their members, there seems to be somewhat of a mismatch in that part. So I really would like the Rotary clubs to align with the Rotaract clubs to make sure that everybody is aware of what the qualifications are to join into the Rotary clubs, what the Rotary clubs are looking for in their new members, to make sure that the Rotaractors will properly transition into Rotary. It is and also Rotary needs to the Rotary clubs need to broaden their scope on what they find necessary as members, and make sure that Rotaractors are also officially in their scope to join in and to become a member. And a lot of the times, one of the reasons why the transition doesn't happen is because the Rotaractors don't or cannot afford, or don't see the need or the good, or don't see the reason for paying for becoming a Rotarian, because for the 10 years or 12 years that they've been Rotaractors, they've never paid membership. So you really want to make sure that there is a good alignment between Rotaract, becoming a Rotaractor and becoming a Rotarian. That, I mean, you have 10 to 12 years to transition to that point of becoming a Rotarian. When you are 18 or when you are 20, you will probably not get into a Rotary club in the District 7030. In the US, yes. In 7030, usually not. So you want to make sure that you use those 10 years to transition into one of the Rotary clubs as a vision, as a Rotaractor. You need to see that goal to get there, and you want to make sure that those requirements are clearly cited, so you know what you need to work towards in order to become a member of the Rotary clubs. I think that would help quite a bit in the transition from Rotaract to Rotary, and that is for District 7030. It changes and it's different all over the world, but for 7030, I see that as a hurdle that needs to be needs to be overcome.
Liz, please take 1 minute, and I actually mean 1 minute to just comment
Literally.
on that point.
Thank you, Joe. All right, yes, Leighton.
Yeah, yes. I just want to comment out. There's a success story we have in St. Lucia with regards to the Rotaractors. We have a very good relationship with our Rotaractors. But what I want to comment on is the fact that we now have a satellite club in St. Lucia that's made up almost exclusively of Rotaractors who didn't want to come into the traditional Rotary Club, and they went ahead and formed their own Rotary Club. And they're a very vibrant group. They're working very well. And so there's no problem now in transitioning from Rotaract to Rotary in St. Lucia. And that's a model you may want to look at in other territories.
Right, thank you. That's a key point, that, you know, if they want to join, they can actually form a new club, because that's what RI is actually pushing to have new clubs form. And obviously with them coming together, they stay together, their culture's already been developed and cemented, because they're a common group with a common interest. All right, thank you so much. Could I just go to our person, PP Lisa, who is manning our Q&A box, to see if there's any questions in the Q&A box?
Thanks, PP Liz. Yes, there's actually one direct question. In Montserrat, the AG has 5 clubs assigned to her, and with the current situation with COVID, the quarantine time is 5 days, and she can meet for the 5 days when she visits a club from a hotel room, but kind of takes away from fellowship. So she's wondering if there are any other suggestions how she might be able to interact with the board and club members. I don't know, AG Brian, maybe you want to take that?
Sure thing. So I would just say I recently attended a meeting of Rotary Club Stone Mountain where PDG Lyle presented, and they asked, they had a icebreaker where they asked a lot of questions about, personal in Rotary affairs and about yourself. That broke a lot of ice, and I think at the end of the day, these are things that we need to think out of the box, how we can break, the monotony of a Zoom meeting, how we can engage people, because I thought that just simply brought a new perspective, because, you start learning about things, about an individual in a different way. You also have a lot of online opportunities where you can have engaging forums to actually do things such as the games, that are aligned to Rotary as well too. They can be very strategic on certain focus points as well too. So there are a multitude of things you can do using the Zoom platform. Hybrid, if it's possible, you can do a hybrid as well. Rotary Club of San Fernando South does all their meetings hybrid at this point in time. It works very, very well. But then you may find that there are some clubs who just simply won't want to meet. They prefer an in-person, and then we are restricted by the COVID protocols. I would encourage you find all opportunities for icebreakers, all opportunities to engage in that forum, because it certainly puts a different perspective. People will laugh and enjoying the meeting, and everything else flowed very, very nicely after that. Thank you.
Thank you, AG Brian. There was some amount of chat in the box, I must say, especially around the last 2 questions, with at least three that I'm aware of, Giselle, Julian, and myself, all being Rotaractors transitioning into Rotary. I guess we have a different perspective, but there's quite a lot of chat in the comment section about that and how persons can actually work and make it happen. There was also some chat about the relaxed requirements from Rotary. And one of the suggestions was that, you can alternate the meetings. You have virtual meetings 2 weeks, you have in-person meetings the other 2 weeks, and it actually encourages persons to come out more. It was suggested that more clubs can pick up such a mandate in a follow-up. I was asking also if for some of the older clubs that, are not ready to embrace change as quickly as possible, if it would be recommended that you do a trial period of testing out that hybrid situation or that, virtual situation, and, should there be a time limit to it before you actually write it into your bylaws. And yes, it's possible, just ensure that you, have a correct time frame around it. But yes, PP Liz, I'll hand it back over to you. As I said, the comments are there in the chat with responses and different points of views.
Thank you, PP Lisa. Quite nicely pulled together there, even though we didn't have a lot of questions, because I think that the discussion is where the richness in the learning happens in that discussion. And you know what? I must say that this is the first time I'm hearing from our membership director, membership chair, district membership chair, Joseph. And I can tell you, I'm so impressed with all of what he has done. So guys, he is a resource that you really need to tap into. I've never heard Joseph talk so much, really. So I was really good. I was really inspired. So tap into him. He has obviously done a lot of research. He is, he has a lot of information, and I think a lot of great ideas that we can actually share. On that note, I would like to ask DGE Leslie to close this section, and after that we'll take a break for 5 minutes, please. Somebody says Oh, Julian has a question. Julian?
Yes, he just posted a question. He's wondering if it's possible for the AG and DGs to take a firmer stand or a firmer position in terms of the embracing of the Rotary relationship.
Can I answer that one?
Sure, I was going to ask you to answer that. Great.
Okay, so Julian, be careful. Every Rotary club is autonomous. And as district governor, as DMC, as assistant governor, you can give quite a bit of suggestions. But unfortunately, you cannot force anybody to do something that they do not want. So yes, we want to inform. Yes, we want to create awareness. Yes, we want to make sure that the clubs adopt whatever we are pushing out to them. But when you are asking us to have a firm hand or to push something that the club does not want, you will get adverse effects. So the clubs need to be ready for it. And just like we said, change needs to be managed, change needs to be monitored, change needs to be guided. Anything that you want done within a Rotary club, you need to do within. And if all else fails, just open up a new club and just make up your own rules within the borders and guidelines of RI. That's the easiest way. That's what I just said in the chat. Hope that answers your question.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Liz. Sorry, there's a raised hand.
All right. After this, we'll close off.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. I just have a comment. In Antigua, we have two clubs. We have a lunch club and a dinner club. The lunch club sponsors the Rotaractors. However, the Rotaractors tend to support the dinner club. Quite a few, at least 2 Rotaractors have left and have since taken up membership with the dinner club. And for the life of me, I don't understand, because the lunch club, they support everything. They invite them to all the functions. However, they still lean to the dinner club. That I don't understand. Just saying.
Yeah, I guess.
Interesting.
You know, it works for them. It works for them. Yeah, it works for them. So, you know, obviously because of their the time limit or whatever it is, what they're doing during the day. Because remember, they're young professionals, and midday may not necessarily be the best time for them. So that's a great notification you shared.
We still continue to support them.
Well,
time for the lunch club to open up a satellite club. And
thank you. That's true. That's true. That's actually perfect. All right. So DGE, Leslie, could you close this session, and then we'll break for 5 minutes. Leslie?
Thank you. Thank you, Liz. Really, really interesting session. Obviously, it could have gone on for another hour or so, but you know, we have our time limits. But I really want to thank the panelists for really engaging and inspiring the participants, because you see from the responses you get the amount of interest you have created. You have really passed on some very useful information to Aegis, which they will take on board and soon get back to the clubs under their command. So thanks very much. Very interesting, and yes, it's time now for the break list. So thank you.
Yes, all right. So we'll break for 5 minutes, and then so we'll see you back in 5 minutes. So welcome back all. I think we're all back again. I mean, that was a very interesting session. I think it was very important to note that what we've been trying, or what we will try to do during these sessions, it started with you and it will continue in Pat's, is to really hear from persons who have been there, done that. I think that is a lot better for persons who could actually have real life stories, real-time stories from persons who have had, who have that experience. So that is why the panel discussion, I think, has really brought out quite a bit of diverse views sometimes, but that is why we're here. We're here to look at it from all angles and to implement what is best suited to our culture and our clubs and what is expected and what they're like and all of that. So thank you all. Now at this time, I'd like us to go into breakout rooms, and here's what I'd like you to look at. I have circulated the annual planning guide for presidents. I just want you to go through it, and if there's any questions you need or any concerns you have about that, because that was something that was used many years ago. I looked at that. I had to submit that to my AG as an incoming president, and I think that that really helps a good structure. PAG Luana did mention that that was a key that helps you moving from quarter to quarter, because there are things that might be asked of you or asked of them, and you list that, and as you go on your next visit, you look at that. But one of the key things that I would like you to come back to the main session with is that PET session this year is going to be restricted. It will be restricted to presidents and secretaries, because you really want to zero in on them and get that conversation going with them, get them going in terms of their plans and all of that, and giving them an opportunity to also share some of their own concerns. And so we're restricting it to just presidents and secretaries for a valid reason. But so what I would like you to do as AGs as well is that, DGE and I, talked about this at length, because we feel that the AGs need to play a greater role in assisting clubs to plan effectively, and not just 1st of July, you make our first visit. It should start from the 1st of February. And to all of those AGs who have been and completed the session in the Rotary Learning Center, you will see one of the things that they have so much resources there in terms of even giving you a template of, tracking your visits, indicating some of the things that you can ask when you visit, but following up on your next visit. So what I would like you to come back to the main group with, as a group, is to come back with some ideas of how are you going to do your onboarding of the board, the new incoming board. Because remember, like I said, there's just the president and the secretary we have here, but there are other members that need to have some guidance as well. The president needs help in that. And I think the AG can play a great role in helping with that onboarding of the new board. So you're going to come back and you can discuss it, and then you come back and share some thoughts on it. So we can hear a variety of ways in which we can actually implement that. All right, thank you. Welcome back. I know our group too, we had a lot of great discussions. I'm sure that you guys are brimming over with information to share with us and, in the wider group. So I'd like to ask group one. Who's group one?
Yes, I am Liz.
Okay, good, great.
Okay, great. So some quick feedback on group one. I mean, I thought the discussions were fantastic. We had representation from 3 territories. We had Grenada, that's Stephen. We had Trinidad, that's Brian, and we had Dominica, which is Delbert. And the discussion centered around the use of the planning guide by AGs as a means of providing support to the club's incoming. Some really nice discussions. I'll just kind of summarize very quickly. Brian did indicate that he thought it was a wonderful document which will serve to get clubs to really focus on their year ahead. And he sees himself using this together with, of course, encouraging incoming officers to input their information into Rotary Club Central as soon as they can. He also mentioned something which is a message for all AGs, is that the position of assistant governor, he says, is not a status thing, but it should be seen as a channel or a mechanism whereby they can provide support to clubs. I thought that was very profound in what he says. Then Delbert from first time AG, Dominica, he says he plans to definitely use the planning guide as a means of getting clubs on board with their plans very early on in the year. And he also plans to use that guide as well as the information inputted into Rotary Club Central as a means of monitoring how clubs are progressing. And he is very big on ensuring that clubs collaborate as much as they can, and to accomplish that, he sees effective communication between himself as the AG and both clubs as the means by which he can push that collaboration. And then we had Stephen from, who's again another first time AG, Rotary Club clubs of Grenada. No issues to input information into Rotary Club Central using the planning guide as a means of getting clubs to focus. Stephen is, he's in a very unique position in that he knows both clubs very well, having served in both clubs. So therefore, the relationship between both clubs, he think is going to act in his favor to ensure that communication takes place. And then we had PDG Elwin actually sharing, and I've actually written this down, given us some really golden nuggets to the Aegis. And I'm just going to repeat just about 3 of the many that he shared. And he says the first golden nugget as an AG is to get to know the culture of each of the clubs under your purview. Getting to know the culture will enable you to relate to each club, individually, and not apply a broad brush approach when you visit clubs or how you treat with clubs during your tenure. And understanding the culture can take various there are various approaches to understanding the culture of the club. You visit the clubs, you communicate with them, and you would hear how each club operates in their own unique way. So understanding the culture of the club will enable you to communicate and support the club almost on an individual basis. There's another very, very important question that he posed, which he's asking AGs to keep at the back of their mind throughout their tenure. And that is, what are we doing, or what are you doing as an AG to bring clubs together? That's a really, really big question, but he thought it was very important that AGs keep that at the back of their mind, throughout the year. What are we doing, or what are you doing as an AG to ensure that the clubs under your purview are coming closer together, whether it is fundraising, whether it is projects. And PDG Elwin introduced the 3 Fs during his tenure: fun, fellowship, and food. Use that as a means of getting your clubs engaged and coming together. And the third one, he says, one of the most important quality of a leader, including that of an AG, is to listen. When you listen, when you attend clubs meetings, when you are invited by clubs, or even when you communicate with them, listen to what clubs are saying. And through that process, you would learn about, what are the challenges, what are the good things, what are the not so good things that are happening within the clubs, for which, you can now come in as AG and offer some support. So really some golden nuggets coming from PDG Elwin, and I think it spoke to, I would say, all the AGs attending today. So that's it from Group 1, Liz.
Thank you so much, JB. We don't have any questions in the box. I just want to put those PDGs on notice that I'll be coming to them at the end of this session, the presentations, to get some feedback from them, because those golden nuggets are just amazing. And it's wonderful to hear that we can usually get that kind of information from somebody who've been there, done that, and experienced all of what can happen and how it can happen and how we can prevent things from happening as well. So thanks a lot for those thoughts. So Group 2, I was in Group 2, and Jean-Marc is in that group. We had DGE who was visiting, but he just got stuck in that group along with AG Maria. And I must let you guys know that I'm also wearing 2 caps, because while I'm an incoming district trainer, I'm also incoming AG. So I participated in the discussion as well. So Jean-Marc has agreed to present on behalf of the group. And so we have a few points that we'd like to share with you. Jean-Marc.
Hello. So first of all, sorry for my English. So I will try to do it in English, but I tried to understand what was said in this group, but it won't be perfect, I'm sure. I'll do my best. So we were with Liz, Leslie, and Maria in this group. First of all, we said we will naturally use the planning guide for the several presidents. And this planning guide, we asked for that it will be, this planning guide will be presented during the PETS to the presidents elect, and it will be a very good tool for having the first contact with these presidents. The second idea was that what is important for the IG when he begins, when he starts, is to have a face-to-face meeting with the several presidents-elect and secretary-elect, and because it's the best way to have the information and to know the several clubs, their problems, their tasks, and how they run exactly. And it's also always a tool so that everybody knows exactly what is his role as an AG, as a PE president, as a secretary, because some people, and that's a good thing, accept to be secretary of their clubs or president, but they don't know exactly what is the role of the president and what is the role of the secretary in a club. So we have to. It's also always a way to explain and to be certain everybody knows exactly what he has to do in his club. We also spoke about my Rotary Club Central, and other Rotary tools, which are not known by every PE and every SE in every club. So it's always very important also to train people to discover these several tools when they don't know it. Every Rotarian is not on my Rotary registered, so it's also something to explain and to train and organize training for that. In the role of each people, we have to explain that the AG is a reference point in the group and in the group of the several PEs and SEs. And after in this discussion, because for example, these are well known, the problem of training and so on. We also spoke about several themes that have old clubs, and for example, we spoke about older people in the clubs, older members, people who are members for a lot of years, and young people, and that every club has, for example, the same problems of cliques, being of gathering of people who are new members or are old members, and all the clubs have to work together to have everybody involved in the same club, and so the AG, because he knows all the clubs, because he spoke with other AGs of other clubs like we do it during the PETS, has also the experience and examples of ways which could be used by several clubs to solve the problems they can have in their own organization. So I tried to summarize. Under the control of Liz, I think I've said the principal things of our group.
All right, thank you, Jean-Marc. You did a good job. You did a good job. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know that you were a little hesitant because, you know, it's like, oh, I have a problem with my speech. And Armand is smiling because he says the same thing too. All right, thank you. All right, so could I go to group 3? So who will be presenting on behalf of group 3?
I'll present on behalf of our group. Armand was actually in our group, and I can attest his English was impeccable. We also had Giselle, PDG David, and myself. We discussed quite a number of approaches, and we have them summarized. Most of us had similar ideas, so we were pretty much on the same page. We saw the importance of beginning incoming board trainings early. even in some instances where it's needed prior to pets, because we understood that some clubs are further behind than other clubs. And in order to help them, they would need that special attention. So the suggestion was to start with your own club, if possible, and then create a template that can be shared with the other clubs under your purview. And they can tweak and adjust as necessary to fit their club needs. Secondly, everyone was on board with creating the WhatsApp groups. Obviously, we're in the WhatsApp time, and we understood the need to have, as much as we hate to be in WhatsApp groups now, multiple groups where you have the individual club leaders as well as one group that has all club leaders, so everyone can get access to each other and information can be disseminated quickly and easily. It was also pointed out that we should always remember to include not just Rotary leaders, but Rotaract leaders, Interact leaders, and if it's applicable, early act or inner wheel leaders. We also discussed how, while you may have several clubs in your cluster under your purview, they may not all be at the same level. Some may be further ahead, some may be further behind. And as AG, in your approach to these clubs, you have to understand that you need to move at different levels. I'm so sorry, Armand, I am speaking very quickly, but I'm just trying to finish within the time frame. And so yes, you have to move at different speeds. The other thing is we noticed it because in some instances where you have more clubs, or some clubs may have slight rifts, what you can do in that instance to bring clubs together and just help with the fellowship is to have non-heavy sessions. So you're not necessarily, this isn't going to be your AG update or your club training sessions, anything like that. Just regular fellowship sessions, have a cup of coffee or a cocktail or two, in my case, rum, whiskey, thanks, if anybody wants to, and just catch up. Nothing necessarily about Rotary, but you have them all together so they get used to being together. And we also discussed having this as a calendared item. So whether once a month, specifically the second Tuesday of every month, or once every 6 weeks, but you create that calendar early and have it so they can include it in their club calendar. So you don't find they come, when you really want to do it, no one has time because it's already penned in and they knew it early. And lastly, we discussed, and for that session, in terms of the fellowship sessions with the different clubs and having them all come together in order to hold them accountable and have them take some responsibility, we came up with having each club host it every time. So this month one club will host, next month the other club, and that way they get involved and they can't just cop out and say, oh no, I'm so sorry, I can't make it, because they have that responsibility. Lastly, we understood the need for clubs to work together, because as much as we are individual clubs, we also are the face of Rotary. And in most instances, non-Rotarians do not see the Rotary Club of St. Kitts or the Rotary Club of Guyana. They see Rotary in your country. They don't distinguish between clubs. So we definitely need to work together, understanding that it's not going to happen overnight, and it takes time in instances where you have a bigger rift between clubs than in other areas. So that's all from us. Thank you so much. This was a wonderful session.
Thank you. Big takeaway about that fellowship meeting. I think PAG Luana had attempted to do that, in her year, in one of the years where we have that monthly thing. I think that's key, because you want to break down the barriers, and you can do that only do that in an environment where you're relaxed. And I think that's really good. So thanks a lot to your group and all those very valuable points. Could we move to group 4? Who is reporting on behalf of group 4?
I think Oliver is. Yeah.
Oh, we are group 4. Oh, sorry, I didn't know that. Okay, good. I was in the group with Julian, Joseph, Lisa, and Luana, and we of course from our experience, Rotary Central works well, but we did take a good look at the list, and of course, with Rotary Central, we're not ticking all the boxes. So this annual, what do you call it, plan is very helpful, I think. there's a suggestion to digitize it, and therefore we have a database for all the clubs in for this this way of reporting all the things that we're doing, because we're missing certain things like the DEI. Very important, some takeaways and some from my experience and also from the others. Early engagement, kickoff dinner helps well. WhatsApp groups already named, but in the early stage, talk about and list all the joint projects, public image for Rotary for that specific country is very helpful. What also was very helpful in the past year is not to stress the presidents too much. You have some moments, I think 4 times in a year, that you really need to stress them. At the beginning, before the year starts, of course, when we have the online district governor's visit, also end of the year, half-year report, and of course the physical visit of the district governor. But other than that, try to go to the what we call the lower gods within the Rotary clubs to do specific things like public image, membership, and stress them a little bit and not go always straight to the president and stress him all the times of the year. Those were the takeaways. I don't know if there are any questions. Feel free.
I like that. No, any questions? Okay. All right. Great information, Chair. Thanks a lot. I'm sure that the persons in this room on this Zoom call would have also garnered some important information from you. You know, you don't overstress the president. Yes. Okay. The president is the key person. Yeah. So, you know, spread your contact, and again, with meeting in a fellowship environment, you build those kinds of relationships. It's important that you kind of look at some persons and you know that you can call on an individual and ask them a question or two. But a WhatsApp group, as Leah mentioned, I think also helps to get information out quickly to everybody with the same message. Rather than if you call on the phone, you're talking to that person have to pass on that message. So I think the WhatsApp group is very, very helpful in that regard. So thank you, Oliver, for that presentation. And our last group is Group 5. And who's presenting on behalf of Group 5? So if you haven't spoken as yet, it has to be you.
Is there a Group 5?
Yeah, I think I'll report on Group 5. Or you're going to go ahead, Ms. Wilson?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I was hoping someone else would, because you've heard from me already. But anyhow,
well, that's fine.
First you wanted to acknowledge was that the template or the planning guide that has been prepared, I think, is a very good document. Is very straightforward, and I don't anticipate that the new administration will have too much difficulty in working through that form. So that's a good thing. The second point we highlighted was the fact that Aegis needed to really get out really early, as early as possible, and to set up the meetings with the various clubs, and perhaps do it in the form of a practical workshop and work through these planning guides with the various teams as quickly as possible. But one of the concerns I certainly raised at our meeting was whether or not it might be more practical or more an efficient use of time if the DGs, depending on the club, was to meet with maybe the president and 1 or 2 key members of the board, or try and meet with the entire board. Because in some cases, for example, the board of the Rotary Club of St. Lucia, we have 14 members on our board. It's a fairly large board. And when you try to meet with a board that big, it may take a lot of time to work through all the details and take up a lot of time. So that is something we throughout, we don't know how you feel about it, whether or not it's absolutely necessary for the AG to meet with the entire board or just the president and other select members. So I'd be happy to get some feedback on that. In terms of the area of membership, we thought Aegis should try to get the teams to focus on the classification system, to get back to the classification system and try and fill as much as possible those vacant classifications that are there in the club. Again, that will only help to strengthen the clubs if you could expand the classification system. The training of the entire board, we think is going to be important. It's perhaps unfortunate that the rest of the board will not be included in PITS this year, and I'm sure there are practical reasons why that's not happening. But the felt Aegis will now need to encourage the rest of the board members to go online and look at the recordings of the meetings at PITS and try and gain as much knowledge from those recordings. So that should be pushed as much as possible when engaging the clubs. The question of the committees, again, the work of Rotary really gets done through the committees. And so it's going to be important that Aegis ensure that clubs have these committees properly established with accountable individuals heading up these committees. I can speak from experience in our club that it's extremely difficult to get people to volunteer to be a chair of the committees. And if the committees aren't functioning, then the club is going to have a problem. I can tell you that right now, my president-elect has already asked me as the AG to also be the membership director, plus the SAG, because no one else is willing to take on these roles. I know I said in my group that I have sucker printed all over my face and I've been taken advantage of many times because of that. Because you want your club to succeed and you want the club to do well. And so many times you end up doing things, but I might have to draw the line on this one because it's really gonna be too much. But it's a challenge there getting people to come forward and take on these roles. So the next thing we touched on is the importance of Rotary Central. Everybody spoke about that. It's going to be important that the AG themselves understand the workings of Rotary Club Central and to be able to assist the clubs and the directors in how to use it. The question of the foundation, this was also a very critical area that we think the AGs will need to focus on. And again, the AGs themselves would need to have a thorough understanding of how the foundation works in order to be able to guide the clubs. And PDG Lyle, who was part of our group, sorry, I didn't mention my group, it was Vanji, His Excellency PDG Lyle, and Miss Wilson. I didn't get your first name. But PDG Lyle stressed the importance of really having a passion for the foundation. And once you have that passion, then that will be able to filter down to the clubs and their leaders. So that's an area I'm going to have to familiarize myself more with. With regards to public image, very critical area. And because it's important that clubs showcase who they are and what they do. And I can tell you in our club in St. Lucia, we've actually added a social media strategist to our board as a new position we created on the board. And his job is to highlight on Facebook and Instagram, and I believe also on LinkedIn, all the work we've been doing and to profile members and projects. So that's a very critical thing that Aegis will need to make sure it's up and running very well in the respective clubs. With regards to financing and the management of funds in the clubs, I guess this is pretty standard throughout district that all clubs should maintain at least 2 separate accounts, a charity account and the club admin account, and never shall the two meet. And there's sometimes a temptation to dip into the charity account for some bridge financing. It's not supposed to happen. So you just need to make sure that those funds remain separate at all time. In terms of the budget, I think you'll be hearing more about the budget because we need to find a way now to use a simpler method of putting the budgets together. I think PDGI will talk about that soon and provide a template that the clubs can use to get their budgets completed in time. We spoke a little bit about Rotary meetings and fellowship and the importance of a system that, again, we use, drawing on my experience in St. Lucia. We have a very successful buddy system, and it works tremendously. And this is something we would like to encourage the Aegis to try and instill in the other clubs, where our buddies, we have to call our buddy each week. And at each meeting, we report on our interactions with our buddy during the week. And there's actually a prize at the end of the month for the buddies who have had the most engagement. And it keeps members connected, keeps people in touch. It helps to improve attendance at meetings. So hopefully we could run with that as well. And finally, I think AG Abraham mentioned about how AGs are going to bring clubs together. And this is, I think, very critical. I am tomorrow having my leadership retreat with the existing leadership team in St. Lucia. And I think this is going to be a good opportunity to build a cohesive relationship between all the leaders. And in doing that, you bring the clubs together. So certainly would like to encourage other AGs to promote the idea of a AG's fellowship retreat. Thank you.
All right, thank you, AG Layton. I think those are extremely valid points. Bringing the clubs together, I think, is key because everybody will be singing from the same hymn sheet, and that session that you're going to have tomorrow, I think, is vital. And perhaps if I can encourage you to have a similar session with your incoming Ps as part of the board onboarding of the new board, because I think this is where we are in fact falling down as a group in the district, is that the new board is perhaps sometimes left unnoticed for too long, and by that time half the year is gone, and they're still struggling to find their feet. So I think the onboarding exercise, and I would implore all of you AGs to try to get that onboarding exercise in whatever shape, form, or fashion you chose is most comfortable with each of the clubs or the clubs under your remit, because that is important. And the reason why we have PEs and SEs, because we want to focus on them and their roles, but we want the AGs to play a part in bringing that board together. And I think the onboarding activities will certainly serve us well in that regard. So thank you, Layton, for your thoughts. And I know there is a question in the chat. AB, you want to take it from here in terms of the questions or any comments in the chat?
Yeah, sure, Liz. So we had one question posed from Leah, and her question was, is there any conflict with the AG holding roles on club boards as AG Layton raised? I'm slated to be my club admin again for the same reason. And we did have a response from Joe. Joe's response was, there's no rule against it, but as an AG, it's better if you're free of board duties, as you need to be independent, right, when a problem arises between clubs. So that's the only question I saw in.
All right. Okay, so if I could call a friend, PGD Lyle, I call it a friend. I opt in for that one now. Call it a friend. PGD Lyle, any thoughts on that? A person's holding multiple roles? Because for the same reason, we are not developing a pool, a resource pool to tap into as leadership change, and so there's not a seamless move and reluctancy to serve in a position. What are your views on that, please?
Yeah, well, it's a reality, but it's something that we should try and persuade members to take up responsibilities, because you're not developing, as you say, you're just not developing people in the district. You're not developing people within your own club. So each role that they can take up in their club is preparing them for future roles, maybe within the district. So it really is the worst thing possible to have people having to do multiple roles or multiple years as the leader. You might want to encourage your membership chair to stay on for a couple of years, because then they can dovetail and build your membership plan. I was saying that membership is one of those things where you need continuity. But even if you step down, you must have somebody groomed to take over. So grooming the person to take over from you so you don't have to be doing the roles time and time again.
All right, thank you. DGE, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I really want to support that. People must be engaged. People must learn to take on roles. People must learn to develop themselves as Rotarians. I want to refer to my good friend PDG David. When he joined Rotary, in no time at all, he was made the attendance chair. And that has kept his interest alive from then until now. It's not a waning interest. So getting involved and taking on different roles is so important to building your Rotary status.
All right, thank you. PGD David, many years ago, this annual planning guide was developed and was used successfully. And because we had Club Central coming on board and because everything was placed on Club Central, the AGs look at Club Central prior to visiting the clubs. The DGs look at Club Central prior to visiting the clubs. We've seen over the years that Club Central is not being used effectively by all clubs. They're not, uploading their goals. And perhaps closer to the end of the year, it was input everything and all the information. I mean, it's a fantastic tool to monitor how you're doing and really to evaluate your impact. But, bringing back the whole idea and purpose of it's not to duplicate work, bringing back the annual planning guide so they could have this as a point of discussion with the AGs. What are your views on us? It's not like we're going back in the past, but we felt that this was something. Some of you mentioned it, a lot of you mentioned it. This is something that was a useful tool. It is a logical, sequential way of looking at structure. It is a way of the AG, entering in with a conversation that can continue for the entire year. Any thoughts, PGD David?
Yeah, I can be very brief on my answer for that. Do whatever works for you.
Okay.
That's always my principle on that. I think Joe earlier mentioned the same thing. No two clubs or things are the same. If it works for us, that's what we do. We cannot continue to be, I shouldn't be the one saying this, but you can't continue to be only so focused on a rule that the rule makes you inefficient. You have to do it the way that suits your circumstance. If it's going to work for us, let's do it.
Yeah, correct. Okay. All right. I mean, point taken. We are preparing President's Toolkit, and this is going to be a part of the President's Toolkit. The toolkit is just really a suggestion. It is just a simple guide, a simplified guide of how the president can attack their year in serving as president. But what is important as well is that the message we want to tell the president-elects and secretary-elects, this is not a one-year thing. This is something that you have to support the incoming board, because we're seeing it happening now. The sitting boards are not even concerned about pets. They're not even checking to see whether their incoming board is the persons are signing on for pets. And I think this is something that we have to try to break, a cycle that we have to try to break. Let the sitting presidents know you are coming in, yes, but it doesn't end at the end of June. It continues. You have to support the incoming board. You have to look at what they're doing, give them some guidance and stewardship. So we will be relying on the AGs to make sure that transition is a seamless transition from one year to the next. And I think that's very important. All right, I think we're 5 minutes over our time. And at this point, I certainly would like to thank all of you. I think we had very, very good engaging and we had some rich discussions. I think quite a bit was shared here, and I know that a lot will be taken back and implemented and looked at, and to see what, not everything, as I said, you don't impose your will on anyone, but you certainly give them suggestions and they can probably take whatever they want out of it and tweak it and create something that is most suited for their club. So on that note, I would like to hand this over to DGE Leslie to perhaps say the thank yous and to close the session today. And thank you all for attending.
Certainly, thank you. Liz, well, folks, we started off on a really good note this morning when we had heard from the experience of our AGs, those who were there before and those who were in the second or so year. And it really provided information of how the different experiences were when they related to the clubs. They all imparted a lot of knowledge to you as AGs. From that, we went into the breakout sessions, which provoked a lot of discussion. so good to hear the different opinions from each member of the team, telling us how they would use that planning guide, how the AG should use that planning guide throughout the year in the clubs. So it's really, really important information that's circulating today. And I wish all AGs would take this to heart and use it as a tool that it is meant to be to guide them going forward. But AGs, I want to tell you this, that a lot, as you realize through the discussions, a lot depends on your relationship with your clubs. Really, really important. You must develop that relationship with every club under your control. And remember, you do not belong to a specific club. You are the AG for the clubs in your group. Please bear that in mind. Do not be biased to any particular club, but you represent Rotary. You are the Rotary person in your club group. So it's important that that relationship is a very open, broad relationship. Listen to the problems of our clubs and try to build the solutions and compete in them. Finally, I want to tell you, as we are leaders, we must lead from in front. I want to appeal to you, to those of you who have not yet completed your learning plans on the Rotary Learning Center, please do so. You can only lead with knowledge. And that, I've said it before, that Learning Center is a university. Anything you want to find out about Rotary is there. Research it. And as AGs, you have to come armed, fully educated, or you know where to find it, of course. All aspects of Rotary. So I appeal to you, please update yourselves at the Learning Center and make sure we can pass on that important information to the clubs that we will be providing oversight. So I want to thank everyone so much for attending. I think our attendance is quite good. Our presenters, our participants, and our AGs for the support that they continue to give, and we look forward to it. I want to say special thanks to training leader Liz and her team. You have put together a wonderful training package for the AGs. I know it will get better for the President-elects and Secretary-elects as we go forward. Thank you very much for taking the time, putting that package together. And thank you everyone for attending. I think it was a wonderful morning, and we could look forward to imagine the things that we can do in the year ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, DG Leslie, and thank you all again. Please make sure you take our poll because we certainly want to hear and get the feedback from you, AGs. So when we plan our sessions in the new Rotary year, we'll know how to navigate that in terms of what are some of the things we need to adjust, amend, add. So thank you for taking the poll.
Announcement, Liz, before you go.
Sure.
I had some discussions with the DG earlier, and we're planning to have one special President's Lounge, maybe the first week in March, to try and gin up some support for the district conference. So all the presidents should look forward to the opening of the lounge, and to invite all the president-elect, all the secretary-elect to that special meeting of the lounge. So some of the members here may not be familiar with the President's Lounge, but it's just a social grouping of all the presidents where we discuss and share our experiences. And it worked well last year, and we're going to have a special one for DG, perhaps the first Friday in March. All right, so look forward to that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that was a great, we had great fellowship. Matter of fact, we learned a lot about each other. We learned about $1 million US. We learned about $1 million US project in Dominica. Yeah, so we it is, and then of course we tease each other about who's going to buy drinks first. We hear all kinds of different. It's a very relaxed environment, and I think a lot was shared over in that environment. So I'm glad that it's actually going to be re-energized in March of this year, and it's a really good thing to drum up the president-elects, get them involved, get them. Right. It's all part of networking. It's all part of networking. And I could also mention, as I'm on networking, on April the 7th in Barbados, it will focus a lot, the PETS Day, the half day that we have, will focus a lot on budgeting, preparing budget, and PDG Lyle has agreed to be the person to present that. And thereafter, it's just going to be networking. I'm hoping to have some speed networking, events, games, and we will be meeting up on the beach in a rum tasting event. So please, when you're coming, you're invited to that. Please bring the rum from your country. All right. So we'll see who has the best rum. It should be an interesting exercise, the rum tasting exercise that we have planned. Again, because we've been away from each other for what, 3 years now. I think that no one wants to go to Barbados to sit and hear lectures. I think you want to meet and greet your old friends, make new friends, and refresh those friendships that you've had over the years. And I know lots of persons always look forward to conference. And we know for sure now, we can say for sure now that the conference is going to happen in Barbados. So if you haven't signed up as yet, be sure to sign up. This is a plug. Before we reach to the President's Lounge, we're plugging persons to sign up. But I encourage your people to sign up as well, register for conference as well. Okay, guys, so have a great weekend, the rest of the weekend. I have my weekend cut out for me. So,
yeah, bye-bye.
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 Bye, everybody.